Welcome to Tamarack Grief Resource Center. Over the next few minutes, you'll hear the stories of a handful of people who have been a part of the programs over the months or over the years. We hope some of these stories resonate with you and make it easier for you to reach out for support during the toughest of times. Thank you.
When I was in 5th grade, when I was 11, she committed suicide. I was sad and I was mad that this was my family and this was my mom.
So Robert got diagnosed with brain cancer. He fought for a full year and then he passed away, I think it was the weekend after Christmas. And it was my sophomore year. Yes, my sophomore year of high school.
The death of my family was suicide. It was when I was very young.
My husband had just passed away. He had completed suicide 13 years ago in May. Grief for my family when we first lost Mike was more than a mess. Like we were shards of glass lying everywhere.
I immediately went completely numb to all emotions and kind of just numb to life, really.
It's just the shock that you're in right away, where you're like, oh gosh, what do I do?
When people experience profound loss, it's pretty darn common to feel very alone. And there's an incredible value that we hear of simply being able to look around a group or a camp setting and know everybody else has experienced the death of somebody significant to them. And that feeling of understanding, that feeling of validity, of universality, of we're not alone, that this is indeed part of a human experience, is incredibly normalizing for people going through something that can feel so crazy-making at times.
I think our first Tamarack group was family camp. And it was kind of the perfect thing because we were all in a situation where we were dealing with the grief in our own way. We were kind of just really closed off with one another, and family camp really helped us realize that we need to be here and we need to be here together.
We were immediately put into counseling at Tamarack like a month or two after my mom had passed away, which I at the time felt like was way too soon. Like I didn't even want to talk about it, but I think it really helped me looking back on it. I think it's really helped me a lot with my process through grief.
I started camp when I was 7 years old, and it was like the summer after 1st grade. When going through my loss on my own when I was a kid and not knowing about Tamarack or anything, I was heading down a path of not a healthy lifestyle.
I think it was so good to have a place for the girls to come, because it's hard to know how to interact with a child in explaining things like that.
Yeah, the first camp we went to, right away we just were wrapped up in love, and it's just been a very spiritual journey.
Going to camp, yeah, that was a huge eye-opener. Like, wow, there's a lot of people who this has happened to. Oh my gosh, all these kids, these little kids, these older kids, all the counselors, everyone has lost someone important to them, and they all know what it's like. Hear my voice this time, this is my fight song. Take back my life song. Prove I'm alright song. Everybody's here to help the family, and it's just awesome to be able to be closer with her and to have her feel comfortable with talking to me about things that are very hard to talk about.
Being part of this community is one of the most remarkable things possible for someone who's experienced loss. And understand that sometimes we really just need that person to look at us and say, I got you, I understand.
I think relationships are tricky. And I think when there's a significant death ends a life, but not a relationship.
So we're tied.
I believe to me, it seems like it's much less around the story of the death and the story of the life.
I feel like there's a lot of things that still remind me of my mom, and I always think of that because I'm like, she is still somewhat here. I think that's really powerful.
The first family camp, there was this like really cool rock, and I still have it. It's like, like the color of trees and stuff, and that was one of my dad's favorite colors, so it kind of reminds me of him too.
I've always thought that Tamarack Camp, a camp to remember wherever it is, has always been my happy place, and it always will be.
I always leave fulfilled and happy to go back. You can cry on my shoulder, I'll cry on yours, and it's super cool.
In honor of the stories and the memories that each of you hold.
And I think that's one reason why the bonds and the people that you meet in Tamarack are just so strong and they're such great people, is because there are no boxes, there are no categories. It's all just people. I guess that's kind of the hope at the end of the tunnel, really.
Grief impacts all of us, and indeed in incredibly individual ways. What we know is we don't have to grieve alone. My hope for you is you find that which gives you strength.